What if the person helping you heal was also the person testing you? This is a dark romance about trust, temptation, and consequences. Luke had learned a quiet survival skill. When someone spoke over him, he stopped speaking. When someone argued harder, he stopped arguing. When someone demanded an answer, he chose the fastest one that ended the conflict. It wasn't weakness, it was self-defense. But over time, self-defense becomes a cage, and Luke had been living inside that cage for years. On weekends, he drove for a rideshare company, not because he needed the money, though he did, but because the car was the only place where no one expected him to perform. The dashboard didn't judge him, the highway didn't debate him, the radio didn't tell him he was wrong. That evening, he pulled up outside a mall and waited for his next rider. The sun was dropping low, painting the sky in orange and soft red. Luke watched the timer on the app tick forward. 1 minute. Newt. 2, 3. His jaw tightened. He could cancel, take the fee, and move on. But something inside him wanted one small win tonight. A smooth ride, an easy passenger. Silence. Just as he reached for the screen, the rear door opened. A woman slid into the back seat with shopping bags and a calm, unhurried presence that didn't feel like the rest of the world. "Sorry for taking so long," she said. "Are you Luke?" He nodded and started the trip. Her name on the app? Ingrid. "Would you mind turning the music down?" she asked. Luke lowered it without a word. Ingrid didn't seem offended by his silence. Most people were. They took it personally. They filled the air with questions to force him to speak. But Ingrid didn't push. After a few minutes, she asked gently, "How's your day going?" Luke exhaled, irritated, exhausted. "It's going. I've had better." "You?" he added, because politeness had been drilled into him like a reflex. "Not that," Ingrid said brightly. "Shopping spree. A few more stops and I'm done." Luke didn't respond. He could feel her looking at him through the rearview mirror, not in a threatening way, more like curiosity. He hated being watched. Watching meant evaluation. Evaluation meant judgment. Judgment meant he would lose. After a few more minutes, Luke spoke again, too sharp. "I don't mean to be rude," he said, "but I'm not in the mood to talk. If we can just ride in silence, I'd appreciate it." The words came out colder than he meant. A long pause followed. Then Ingrid replied, calmly, "I understand. I'm sorry to bother you. I hope your day gets better." The way she said it, without resentment, hit him like a quiet slap. Luke swallowed. Guilt rose in his throat. He looked back at her. Ingrid was striking. Not in a loud way, not in a way that demanded attention, but in a way that held attention once it was given. Her hair was brown with natural texture. Her eyes were pale blue, focused but kind. Her face carried the soft marks of time, wrinkles that looked like life lived, not life hidden. And every time Luke glanced at her, he found her already looking back, not accusing, not annoyed, just present. When they reached the outlet, Ingrid gathered her bags and paused with her hand on the door. "Thanks for the safe ride," she said. Then she reached into her purse and handed him a business card. "If you ever need to talk or vent, I'm a licensed therapist. Free consultation. No pressure. Just if you want." Luke stared at the card after she left. Dr. Ingrid Wolf. Therapy. Counseling. He should have thrown it in the cup holder and forgotten her. But he didn't. Because Ingrid had done something rare. She had been kind to him, even after he wasn't. 1 week later, Luke sat in the waiting room of Ingrid's office feeling like a fraud. Therapy was for people with real problems, he told himself. But his chest tightened at the thought of going home, of walking into another argument where his words would stumble and vanish. The receptionist opened the door. "Luke?" He stood. Ingrid greeted him with a professional smile and a handshake that felt firm, warm, and strangely grounding. "Please," she said, "have a seat." Her office was calm, soft lighting, a clean desk, a shelf of books that looked like they'd been used, not displayed. Ingrid sat across from him and opened a notepad. "So," she began, "what brings you in today, Luke?" He stared at the floor. "My wife." Ingrid nodded slowly, like she'd expected that answer. "Tell me." And for the first time in a long time, Luke did. He spoke about how his wife was successful, confident, admired. How she walked through life like the world made room for her. How he loved her, but constantly felt like he was trying to keep up with someone who didn't slow down. He spoke about arguments where she had words like weapons, and he had silence like a shield. He spoke about how his mother had stopped answering his calls after a boundary conversation that his wife insisted should happen her way. He spoke until his throat felt raw. Ingrid didn't interrupt. When he finished, she leaned back slightly. "You feel unheard," she said. "And when you try to speak, you shut down. Not because you don't have feelings, but because you don't believe they'll matter." Luke blinked. That was exactly it. He hated how accurate she was. He hated how relieving it felt. Ingrid asked softly, "Have you told your wife this?" Luke laughed once, bitter. "I try, but when she starts talking, my brain goes blank. It's like, I can't compete. It's easier to surrender." Ingrid's eyes held his. "And your needs?" she asked. "Your emotional needs? Your intimacy needs? Do those get surrendered too?" Luke's body stiffened. Not because the question was graphic, because it was true. He admitted the obvious truth he had never said aloud. The distance between them had grown. Not just emotionally, physically. Not in explicit detail, not in crude words. Just the quiet, shameful reality that he felt unwanted sometimes, even when his wife loved him. Ingrid nodded like she'd heard this story in 100 different forms. Then she closed her notepad. "Okay," she said. "Let's try something." Luke frowned. "Like what?" "A practice run," Ingrid said. "A controlled moment where you do the thing you're afraid to do." Luke's stomach tightened. "You mean talking to her?" Ingrid nodded. "I want you to call your wife right now," she said calmly, "on speaker. And I want you to say what you just said here." Luke stared at her. "Ingrid, I know," she said gently. "You feel like you'll freeze, that you'll lose." She paused. "But what if we change the conditions?" Luke swallowed. "How?" Ingrid's expression became more serious. "I'm going to say something clearly," she said. "This is not standard therapy. It's unconventional, and it risks crossing lines. If you're uncomfortable, we stop immediately." Luke's heart hammered. He nodded slowly. Ingrid continued, "You've been trained to believe your feelings don't matter unless they're perfectly expressed. That's not true. Your feelings matter even when they're messy." Her voice lowered slightly, not seductively, but intimately, like a secret. "And sometimes people need an anchor, something that keeps them from sinking back into silence." Luke's fingers curled against the chair. "Ingrid, what are you doing?" She held his gaze. "I'm giving you a chance," she said, "to speak while you still feel seen." Luke didn't understand fully, but the air in the room changed. Not with explicitness, with tension. With the dangerous awareness that his therapist wasn't just listening anymore. She was affecting him. He picked up his phone. His hands shook. He called his wife. She answered quickly. "Babe, is everything okay?" Luke swallowed hard. "Yes," he said. I need to talk to you." His wife sighed. "Right now? I'm between clients. Can it wait?" Luke's chest tightened, the old instinct to surrender rising like a wave. Then Ingrid's voice cut in, not spoken, just her presence. She leaned forward slightly. She didn't touch him. She didn't do anything explicit, but her eyes told him something. "Don't disappear." Luke inhaled. "No," he said, "it can't wait." His wife went quiet. Luke spoke, halting at first. "I haven't been okay," he said, "and I need you to hear me without arguing." His wife's tone sharpened. "Is this about your mom again?" Luke almost folded. Then he did something new. He didn't explain. He didn't apologize. He didn't surrender. He said, "It's about me." His wife paused. Luke continued, voice cracking but steady. "I feel unheard," he said. "I feel like my feelings don't count unless I can prove them. and I can't do that. I'm not you, but I'm still your husband. His wife's breathing changed. Luke, where is this coming from? Luke glanced at Ingrid. She nodded slowly, like a coach letting the athlete realize their strength. Luke said, "It's coming from the truth. I need you to stop treating every disagreement like a competition. Sometimes I need to speak without being corrected." His wife softened. I didn't know you felt this strongly." Luke's throat tightened. "Because you didn't ask," he said. Silence. Then his wife said, quietly, "Okay, I'm listening." Luke felt something inside him unlock. He didn't rant, he didn't insult. He simply told the truth. When the call ended, his wife promised they would talk later. Really talk. Luke set his phone down like it weighed 1,000 pounds. He looked at Ingrid. "I did it," he said, like he couldn't believe it. Ingrid smiled, proud, measured. "Yes," she said, "you did." The moment after, the office became unbearably quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after a storm. Luke's pulse still raced. Not from the phone call, from Ingrid. From the fact that he had spoken his truth while sitting across from someone who looked at him like he mattered. Ingrid stood and walked back toward her desk. Again, nothing explicit, but Luke's mind didn't need explicit. His mind filled the spaces with imagination. Ingrid stopped and faced him. "You feel relief," she said. Luke nodded. "Now you're going to feel something else," Ingrid added softly. Luke frowned. "What?" Ingrid's eyes didn't flinch. "Temptation," she said. Luke froze. "Ingrid, I know," she said calmly, "and you know." Her voice softened. "Sometimes, when someone has been starving emotionally, they confuse nourishment with desire." Luke's throat tightened. "That's not fair," he whispered. Ingrid nodded, as if agreeing. "No," she said, "it's not fair, but it's real." Luke stood, then sat back down, then stood again. His body couldn't decide what it wanted. Ingrid spoke quietly. "This is where we stop." Luke blinked. She continued, "Because if we don't stop, you will do something you cannot undo." Luke stared at her, stunned. "You're sending me away?" Ingrid nodded. "Yes." She handed him a tissue because he hadn't realized his eyes were wet. Luke took it, embarrassed. Ingrid's tone became professional again. "The consultation is over," she said. "You did important work today." Luke breathed hard. He wanted to ask her to finish what she started. He wanted to run. He wanted to stay. He wanted everything. But he left, and the door closed behind him with a sound that echoed like finality. 2 years later, Luke never returned. He repaired his marriage the best he could. Some days were good, some days he still swallowed words. He told himself the office was a mistake, a strange day, a harmless fantasy, until he saw the book. Hardcover, bestseller, a bright label on the corner, Cheat Code to Understanding Men, and on the cover, Dr. Ingrid Wolf. Luke flipped it over. Her photo stared back at him like a ghost that had learned how to smile. His wife walked in with dinner plates. "Do you want to read it?" she asked casually. "My book club is finishing it. The author's story is insane." Luke's hands felt cold. "What story?" he asked. His wife said, "Apparently she got fired from her practice, lost her license. She confessed to crossing a line with a patient for research." Luke's stomach dropped. His wife laughed lightly. "Some people really sacrifice everything for their work." Luke forced a smile. "Yeah," he said, "some people." That night, he searched her name. He found the tour schedule. 1 week later, she was signing books at a mall not far from him. Luke drove there without telling himself why. The reunion. Ingrid sat behind a table, signing copies like she belonged there. When Luke stepped forward, her eyes lifted. She recognized him instantly. Her smile was small, controlled, like she'd been expecting him for years. You never came back, Ingrid said. Luke swallowed. Life happened. Ingrid signed the inside cover and handed the book back. Life happens, she repeated, but her eyes said something different. Luke hesitated. Is it true? You lost your license because of what happened? Ingrid's gaze didn't drop. Yes. Luke's voice went thin. Why would you risk that? Ingrid leaned forward slightly. Because some moments change you, she said, and some people stay with you. Luke's heart pounded. That doesn't make sense. Ingrid smiled, sad, almost amused. It does, she said, if you understand what it's like to build your entire life around control and then lose it. Luke's mouth went dry. Ingrid stood, stepped closer, and lowered her voice. Dinner, she said. Tonight. No therapy, no experiments, just honesty. Luke stared at her. He thought of his wife, his home, his rebuilt trust. He thought of the door that closed 2 years ago, and the part of him that never stopped wondering what was on the other side. One condition, Luke said. Ingrid tilted her head. Name it. Anything that happens, Luke said, is between two consenting adults. Not doctor and patient, not research and subject. Ingrid's smile returned, slow and deliberate. Deal, she said. She wrote something inside his book, a number. Then she looked up. I'll be at the Four Seasons downtown, she said, if you choose to come. Luke stepped back like he'd been pushed, and then he walked away. Final scene, fade to black. That night, Luke sat in his car in a dark parking lot, his phone in one hand, his wedding ring on the other. He stared at Ingrid's number, then at his wife's last text, then back at the number. The engine hummed like a heartbeat. Luke took a slow breath and made a choice. The camera would never show what happened next, only this. A hotel elevator rising, a hallway stretching, a door opening. Two silhouettes inside warm light, and the soft click of the lock. Fade to black. What if the person helping you heal was also the person testing you? This is a dark romance about trust, temptation, and consequences.